Alright, so,
You think you're sick of Big Mike's pizza? How do you think I feel?
alright, so, I'm doing this in a nutshell. Um, Tennocon 2025 was the 19th, and that was 3 days ago. So today, I'm just doing this to correct what I said yesterday. The lore of Warframe is quite vast, um, so it's important to correct certain things to make sure that they're accurately corrected. Because I've been playing it for so long, sometimes you forget certain things. So here's what it is. This is what Warframe is. Just the definition of the game itself. What is Warframe? Like if you see it in a shop, scroll over the icon. What is it? The PlayStation doesn't give you a description of what it is, so I'll give you a description. It's a looter shooter.
Ordis keeps a tidy ship, and is therefore reluctant to allow animals on board. In Ordis's experience, animals do not eat so much as reload.
I could swear I turned off Orders. I didn't turn him off. Okay. Alright. So, Warfare in a nutshell is a looter shooter, which should be obvious. It's in space. This should also be obvious. It's also um, uh, free to play, which is also obvious. It's free roaming. Like you could choose to free roam, or you could choose to do things by mission. So you could choose to do mission here, 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 here. Once the mission is finished, you extract, you get back into your ship. Or you could choose to go to a location, like say Plains of Eidolon, where you could free roam, you could stay there for hours on end, just farming resources and fighting enemies, bosses, and doing random missions without leaving the location at all. So Warframe is also free roam. And there are several locations like that as well where you could free roam on different planets. Warframe is also fashion design game. Now, most people say, well, every game is fashion design, but Warframe main bread and butter is fashion. It's all about styling your Warframe, and it's all about, at the end of the day, once you've beat everything in the game, or you've attempted to beat everything in the game, at the end of the day, it's about how you make your Warframe look, how fun you can make it look, what style you could do. These are all things related to style, color, randomization, energy emissions, squadron types, helmet types, and there are various of just the helmets, and there are various of just skins, and there are various of just attachments, body attachments, armor attachments. So it's a lot. So at the end of the day, the true end game to this is the design. So Warframe is also about fashion, though you may see fashion in other games such as um, uh, I believe the game something Nikki, which is about a game about fashion and using fashion and clothing and style of fashion in order to fight enemies. So it's kind of like that, but we're not using fashion and fashion accessories in order to add magic powers to them in order to defeat our enemies. Fashion is just part of the game. That's part of the end game. You have the fighting part of the end game, and then you have the fashion part of the end game. So that's also Warframe as well. Warframe is also a heavy mechanics game, which is not as in heavy as is bad, as heavy as in it's given to you in order to make your experience far easier. You press the option button, the scroll mechanics pops up, and you can make your scrolling pretty fast if you want to make your scrolling fast. And you can make the scroll button light if you want to make the scroll button light. Not many games even allow you to adapt and change up your scrolling. Because this is a mass multiplayer online game, it has to tailored to adaptation towards all type of players. So Warframe is also that as well. A mechanical looter shooter game that's adapted to whatever type of play style you are and whatever type of person, whether you're disabled or not, that you are. Now, I'm not sure if it's designed for people who are blind or for people who are deaf, but it has some adaptations with regards to color blindness and adaptations with regards to sound and adaptations with regards to the type of pad you're using. So even if you have one functioning arm, you still be able to play Warframe because it's designed, adapted to design in order to fit the type of person that you are. So what is Warframe? Warframe is those things, all those things I just said. The looter shooter, adaptive mechanics, exploration type game in free roam or mission type, um, fashion, and of course there's also ninjas in space, and that's the last thing. Ninjas in space. All their abilities is associated with ninjutsu in certain ways, and ability to use powers in association with ninjutsu in certain ways in space. So if you like playing ninjas in space, if you like looter shooters, if you like free roaming, if you like um, adaptive mechanics with regards to changing up your controllers, whether it's your cursor to your screen, tearing to your brightness. Also, if you like fashion, and after you've done all that, fashion is part of the thing that you want. That's also there as well. And if one of the main things is that you desire is bosses, well, the boss mechanics in the game aren't like the best in the world, but the boss mechanics in the game becomes real progressively harder once you get past a certain level. That you would need a squad. For instance, if you were to fight um, the boss on Venus, you would die by yourself. You go to Fortuna and fight the boss on Venus, you would die by yourself in the mission, unless you have adapted your Warframe to be near spotless, because that boss is designed to fight several Warframes, not just one. So if you can beat him with one, it's because you've designed your Warframe to perfection and put on the right mods in the right situations. And of course, you have four to five revives, depending on how many affinity you have. So there are several very strong bosses in the game, equal to that or even greater than that than, say, some Dark Souls bosses, like Prophet Taker is one of those. He's extremely powerful. Is far more powerful than some Dark Souls bosses, not all, just by itself. Of course, there's also the bosses that are locating in demos, the infested bosses, and they could be extremely powerful as well, or infested missions, because they're fully made out of toxic, which means they deplete your health. So there's that as well. And then there's bosses like those of angel bosses that are located within the void of not just the void, but of Zariman. And if you were to solo those bosses, they would be hard. But if you were to fight them in a group, they would be easy. And of course, there are bosses in relations to your weekly and dailies. And these are some of the hardest bosses. And the end boss is the final fight boss, which is the Archon Hunt Showdown boss. Which, if you were to fight by yourself, it can be doable. Just like Prophet Taker, it's doable solo, but it would be hard. So there are several very hard bosses in the game that you would have to burn through more than one or two of your infinity just to kill. Um, it's not easy, but at the same time, it's doable by yourself, depending on what you're using, specters, what you're modding, and so on and so forth. So that's basically Warframe in a nutshell. What is Warframe? Free-to-play looter shooter. What is Warframe? A free roaming. What is Warframe? Fashion. What is Warframe? Adaptive system of the UI in order to adjust to your playstyle of whoever you are, whether you're disabled or not. What is Warframe? A game that has locked in boss fights and not locked in boss fights, open missions and not open missions. So that's Warframe in a nutshell. And also, Warframe is, I guess, lore also heavy. There's a story-based game there, but the story is not a main factor within the game. So if you want all those things and then one day you're saying, okay, I see you, I hear what you're saying, but I also want to play a story game where I go on a journey. Well, the journey of Warframe story are split into sections, which are known as quests, and you could take those quests in sections. And Warframe has designed it in a way in order to for you to understand, because many people who first start the game won't understand. Well, I don't want to do side quests and I don't want to do Warframe quests. I want to do the main story quest of the game. And the main story quest of the game will pop up, and there's several. So Warframe does have a story that you're that's progressive. You start from a beginning and then you proceed forward until you reach the end. And that's how that works. So anyone who says Warframe doesn't have a direct past story in a timeline, that's untrue. It took them a while to organize this, but that's the present. That's what Warframe is. Now, I just described what Warframe is. So, what is the lore of Warframe? The thing that I forgot from yesterday. Well, let me put this on solo because I don't want to speak while I'm in the mission with anyone else. So, I'm going to just free roam and see this. Or maybe I should do a mission. Alright, so I'm just going to go to relay and see what's up, if anything changed. I doubt it. So, the lore of this new, so the Tennocon 2025 came out and they brought new lore. Um, so what is the lore of Warframe? Not just the Tennocon 2025, as we see here. There's music here. Okay, so also present here, this is the new and latest update. So um, July 19th, they brought out the latest update with regards to what's going to be coming out in November or December of 2025. Not sure which one. I believe it's December 2025, which will be a new update with a new Warframe. And it's also going to be part of the Tenno Academy, which is going to be a story in relations to the TAW system, which is coming out in 2026. So there's going to be an update coming out in November, December of 2025, and it's going to be related to a new Warframe, Devil style Warframe, and of course information with regards to the TAO Academy, which was stated in this latest and new update, came out July 19th, 2025 at the live Tennocon event, which is over already. But the lore of Warframe is plain and simple. I'll state it from the beginning of Warframe to where I am now without overstating my welcome. And I'll make it as fast as I possibly can. It's not going to be less than 5 minutes because then that's almost impossible. So here it is. The story of Warframe started, if I'm to go back to beginning of time, when there was no Warframes. This is also going to include some things that don't exist yet, that I pieced together over the many years from their lore that they have online and to some fan theories. So how it goes like this: Earth exists, obviously. We're in the solar system, and it was still called the solar system at the time. And when it was called the solar system at the time, apparently some type of war happened, or some type of disease happened, or some type of infestation happens. Now, it is believed that the techno rot of 1999 had something to do with it. That a guy, Albert Andrade, from the future or another dimension, which we'll call it our dimension, or our future, went back into an alternate reality of 1999 Earth. or went back into 1999 Earth. And he supposedly experimented on stuff, and supposedly an infestation created infestation due to experimentations. Um, I believe this is possibly one of the cases. If you're talking about going way back to when the infestation were first formed, the original design of the infestation was classified as on a specific planet in the near future, depending on when the original Warframe future was. Um, let's say the Warframe future is the year 3000 or something like that. On a specific planet in a designated location, the Orokin or group of people, not sure if it was Orokin yet, but a group of people, let's say that they were the Orokin, just for hell's sake, were experimenting on biotechnical or biological warfare and compounds they found on an alien world that was somewhat alive, and they believed that they could somewhat use it in order to heal and create organic compounds used for combat that could either resuscitate life or redefine their way of using technology. Eventually, it is then discovered that this infested compound is extremely volatile, and if in contact of flesh, it would cause it to corrupt the person, and then people start turning into nightmarish creatures. So they had to contain this on a specific planet. This was the idea of the dark sectors in Warframe, not the dark sector games, where they lock off this so-called disease on a specific planet somewhere in the distant future. Now that's the original lore of the infested. Now, when 1999 came out a few years ago, or about 2 years ago, um, it was stated that Entradi traveled to a certain time period, and infested were found during that time period of 1999. And the Tech was the first existence of the infested, and how the Tech came to be the first existence of the infested in this alternate timeline rather than on a planet somewhere is yet unknown. So let's say for hell's sake that on that planet somewhere in a distant place, this distant place on this distant planet was the same planet Earth, and or the same dimension that Entradi went to and did his experimentations there. And through those experimentations, they followed him through the void or through wherever to the 1999 locations, and eventually started to corrupt everyone on Earth of that 1999 world. So it is still not stated that either Entradi or, I don't know, the man in the wall started the infestation, but it's classified as scientists or practicing experimentations with regards to disease in association with the Orokin. That's how the original lore went. Now, the 1999 lore went that Entradi has something to do with it. And so he traveled through the void, or used void energy to travel to a certain time period and did his experimentations in time period, and then the infestation turned into tech rot, and that was the first incarnations of the disease. Or it's the other way around. But if you think about it, it will be very much aligned with each other if that's the case, because we don't know exactly on what planet the scientist was doing the experimentation on, and at what location on what planet they were doing it on. So if the planet that he was doing experimentation on was pre going through the void to 99 world, or after going through the void to 99 world to do his experimentation on, that would kind of align with the lore. So if anyone would say, well, the original infestation started in 1999, they wouldn't be completely wrong, because 1999 will be the earliest presentation of the infested, not the first birth of the infestation. So you could state that it was the first birth of the infestation, though it's not completely clear. Warframe has, the people from Digital Extreme has still yet to clarify when this infestation was born. When did it come about? Did it come about after Entradi left the void? Did it come about before Entradi entered the void? And did it happen on a separate planet during the origin system on a place far away, as it was in the original story? Regardless, moving forward from that, um, you then have a problem because now this infestation corrupted planet Earth, and the people of planet Earth are trying to find a way in order to destroy this infestation. Now, there's no clear definition how they're going to do it, so maybe nuclear warfare was used, maybe radiation poisoning was used, maybe radiation elementation was used, maybe um, the planet could not be saved and had to be wiped clean, and thus people left the planet and traveled into space, which would then align with the whole lore of Warframe and the origin system. Because as we see when we go to Cetus, Cetus is then a planet which is covered in radiation during the night period, not during the day period, which could only mean that during cool air and low sun radiation, elements of normal human biological radiation is present during the nighttime when there's least sun radiation that's coming, which is kind of strange to me. I would figure it would be more radiation in the morning. So moving on from that, apparently human beings left Earth. I'm not sure if it's they left Earth during the 1999 period, but human beings left Earth. And even though I'm repeating this again, human beings left Earth and they went off to space. They formed various different companies in space after leaving Earth for so many centuries. And eventually these companies turn out to be, let's say Johnny Storm, Sue Storm, Peter Petrelli. I'm just giving out names to describe companies. Taco Bell, Burger King. Let's call these companies all the companies we found on Earth, but they're now in space. Eventually, as time passed, all the companies that we know on Earth formed together to form the corpus because there was one company they wanted to compete against that was also doing their thing, and that company was called Orokin. So Earth is fucked due to radiation. Not sure if it's a technorot, not sure it's the 1999 world, for which people then leave Earth, go into space, and then things are born from there. That's because 1990 world is considered an alternate type of world in relations to the exact Earth. But it's strange how things are playing out the exact same way. Earth is fucked in the 1999 world, but Earth is also fucked in our world as well, and people aren't on Earth either. So it feels like those lores are tied together strongly to try to describe that in some ways whatever Entradi did or whatever came through the void of Entradi is very much aligned with how the birth of the infestation came. And so we're in the future, so companies form together, and so companies are born, and those companies eventually turn out to be the corpus, form one big guild, and eventually time passed, all the companies' name went away, nobody cared about the Burger King and the McDonald's and so on and so forth, and they all became corpus. Enron, not Enron, Texaco, or let's say Pfizer, they all became corpus at the end of the day, one name. And their main competitor was the Orokin, which was their own competitors, their own competing companies. Eventually, time passed. These companies became empires. And as the companies became empires, they discovered the void. Once they discovered the void, or should I say, once the corpus discovered the void, the Rokins quickly jumped on it, found that in order to uh, extract the information of what the void is and where it is and where it came from, they decided to send people in there. Everyone got 86 so 187. When people come out, they start killing each other. They don't know what's going on, but the void seemed to affect adults who go into the void. So it's an exploration ship, went in there, came out. And this is the weird part. So apparently, Entrati came through a void or used void energy in order to travel to the past to get the 1999 world. But individuals from the future, the people of the future, have no knowledge of the void. So if we were to tie anything related to Entrati into the future of the world, which eventually led to Entrati discovering the void, time travel is part of this whole element. So I can't say that it's a cycle of things catching up to each other, but let's moving forward from there. We'll then say that the people who then came out the void that got messed up, that looked deformed, started to kill each other. Eventually, the Orokin decided that because one of their own personal ships, which the Corpus basically working for the Orokin in the future, because they wanted to beat them, decided to send in children. So once they send in children into the void, they soon realized that children were able to not 86 each other, not 187 each other once they come out. Their bodies will be altered, but not physically deformed, or one hand is long, one face is long, blue and stuff. But they are able to have powers in that sense. So, boom, that's how kids became transference adapted. And this is way before the sentients decided to go rogue. Now, this was before Warframes were born. So what's going on here with this new update is we're catching up to from the past to the here and now. And it's stated within this new update that the Tau Academy was born once the first sentient war happened. Now, the first sentient war is not the Hunhao War, just to make that clear. The first sentient war was the first rebellious war of the sentients, or the first use of the sentients to rebel against the Rokan Empire, which would have meant only one thing. During that time period of the Orokin experiment to the void, sending people through the void, and also sending children to the void in order to do transference, they also send sentients into the void. And those sentients got corrupted because, as we know, like Superman, the void is the sentient's weakness. And it changed them as well. It made them somewhat self-aware. It weakened them and made them weaker, but it also made them stronger in some sense, which means their self-replicating abilities was null and void. They couldn't do so. They couldn't replicate themselves due to going through the void, and that was a bad thing. But at the same time, it kind of made them aware of their own existence. And so that's how that war happened. And during the time period of them using children to learn transference, the sentients, the original sentients, attacked. And they started to kill off the people from the Orokin. But I think what happened as well, since they cannot replicate, the ones that came through the void eventually got in contact with the ones that weren't in the void and changed them in order to go all Borg and kill the Orokin. And since they can self-replicate when they're not in the void, it was like mass murder. The Orokin started to get killed off. And then, me correcting my mistake from the last time, that's when the Orokin decided to, okay, we have children who have these strange powers that we sent into the void, and we now have this huge problem of sentients who are trying to kill us now, because we should have never sent them into the void, because it made them go crazy. But not crazy in the way of wanting to just kill us, but crazy in the way of they're now able to think for themselves, which is very bad. So how can we deal with these sentients? We have this infestation we've discovered, and we've had some issues about this containing this infestation on a certain planet, which I described with not only 1999 but possibly the original lore of the infestation. They discovered it on a planet, and thus they tried to control it, and then it got out of control. People had to evacuate, lock off the planet, so on and so forth. So there were people killing off infested way before they had a problem with the sentients. So we're going to take this disease and this infestation disease, and we're going to meld it with possible sentient DNA, metal. So we cannot kill them because they're too strong. The sentient has high shields, high capability, and high readaptation periods. Um, but we need something to cut through their shields because we're getting wiped out here. Our Grineer are armor based, and the Sentients are shield based. So their bullets are just bouncing off the shields. Their bombs and their bullets are just bouncing off the shields of the Sentients. So we need something to cut through the shields. Here we got our solution. These infestations that are happening on these planets, which contain these creatures, are armor based. They're hard. We cannot control them, but maybe we could use them in order to fuse with our captured sentients or the sentients we have. And then we make something new with the Helmite, and that's how the Warframes came into being. So the first actual war that happened in Warframe, and I'm assuming, is actually the war against the infested, but not the Warframe war against the infested, the proto Warframe war against the infested. So the first Warframes were created in order to deal somewhat with the sentient slash the infested. It could have been happening at the same time, but the true fight first started with an infested. Yes, we had the separatist groups. Yes, we have some corpus people who want to sabotage Orokin, but a war that actually started in order to contain the infested happened first. So Warframes were originally created in order to deal with the sentients. So to deal with the sentients first. So that was the first thing. So that was the mistake I made from the last time. So they were first created to deal with the sentients um, in order to take care of them. And during that same period, I could say it's the same time frame, or maybe a couple of decades before, a couple of decades after, they then decided to, well, go back to the infested that are taking over certain planets. And that's how that came to be. It's very, very, very difficult in order to lock down who was the first war. It's hard to lock down who was the first war because it doesn't exist yet. Yes, the infested came first. Yes, the infested came first. But what was the first war first? It's hard to lock that down because we know Grineers were fighting against the infested to contain them on certain planets. But there's no knowledge of the Warframe was first fighting them in order to contain them. We know that Warframe was created to use in order to make themselves defeat the sentients, which was trying to wipe out the Orokin. But we also know that the Warframe was created in order to deal with the infested as well. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? So that's the difficult part. Who did the Warframes first fought against? Was it the infested or was it the sentients? Yes, the Warframes were created to deal with the sentients. That was their creation, to deal with the first sentient uprising. And then the defeat of the first sentient uprising happened. They got defeated. Thus, the Tau Academy came into existence. So, that said, that happened. But it's hard to lock down if the Warframes first fought in a first war before they fought in the war against the original sentients. The first ever Warframe war, was it actually against the sentients for which they were created for? Or was it against the infested for which was becoming a problem throughout certain planets? So the infested war happened, but there's no knowledge, or should I say there's no lore that says the Warframes were actually part of that first infested war. Could have been Grineer, could have been Corpus, but there's no actually locking down to state that a Warframe was fighting the infested in the infested war that came before the sentient war, the first sentient war. What is known is that the Warframes were created to defeat the sentients, the first rebellious sentients, because they were too strong in order to defeat. Now, the Tau Academy, which was then released in this 2025 update, stated after that war was over, the Academy was formed, and the sentients came to work alongside the Orokin once again within the Tau system. So, the sentients that were sent into the Tau cannot return from the Tau because of the void disease of the void. So we're in the tar system of this new update, which will be coming out in 2026, and of course November, December of 2025, the new update. In order to give more context, so if these are actual abandoned sentients within the tar system, means that this is actually a Roken control tar system that still exists before the rise of Hunhao, which came before the Old War and during the Old War, because the Old War is about the sentients attacking again, and after the Warframe dealt with the sentients, they then turn against the Orokin, all at the same time period. So everything I've stated, that's basically Warframe in a nutshell. It will take more than 5 minutes just to describe everything in detail. So that's the beginnings of Warframe, from planet Earth going into the future to the tech rot to where we are now, moving forward. And that's how the Corpus came to being. And of course, the Orokin came into being because they were simply a company that discovered everything before everyone else and had smart people. And the Entradi were a bunch of scientists that worked for them. And one of the Entradi went back in time or to a different dimension, which is called 1999. So everything leads from the past to here and the here and now. Now, if we're talking about the lore of the here and now, not the past, for which we are moving here and now, is when you first wake up in your Warframe pod, when you first uploaded the game, and once the game is uploaded, you then select a character, and you select either 1, 2, or 3 characters, a Mag or Volt or a Loki or something like that, or maybe they changed it up. And once you select that character, you then are that Warframe. You then can pick a gun, pick a knife, pick secondary primaries, and so on and so forth. You then are given a small tutorial on how to play the game, and moving forward, the first story of the game presents itself, which is the first story of what Warframe is. Warframe went away in the old war, and in the new war, we'll wake up again in our pod. And once you wake up, once you play the game, once you first upload the game, and you're now in the game, you're now in the now era, which is no longer called the solar system, it is called the origin system. So this is the year 3000, the year 4000, I don't know. But everything of Warframe was of the past and ended at the old war, and everything in the Warframe's future started at the moment you woke up out of your pod. So there's a huge time gap between the old war and where you are right now, waking up in your pod and picking a Warframe and picking your weapons and going to your ship, defeating Captain 4. So that's the time gap. And during that time period of that time gap, the old war to the new generation now, the time for which you played the game and first started the game, there are no Orokins. The Orokins are all dead. Dead and gone, dead and buried. Centuries have passed. They don't exist anymore. They're like ancient Egyptians. They don't exist anymore. Ancient pharaohs, they don't exist anymore. Or ancient Sumerians, they don't exist anymore. They used to exist. They used to rule the world. They're like Genghis Khan or something. He ruled most of the world. Don't exist anymore. That time period came and gone. And in this future, which is the now generation, once you wake up in your pod and choose your Warframe, got into your ship, and go to certain solar rails, because you then leave here, you then go to solar rails, which is on the origin system map. You then do certain solar rails, unlock certain rails in order to get from planet to planet, because as great as your ship can travel from place to place, it cannot travel through extreme deep space without taking long. Like any travel, like traveling in your car from, say, Los Angeles to Florida, it would take a long time to travel there. But let's say on planet Earth, some guy came up with a technology to create a relay that would take your car a matter of just 30 minutes to get from Los Angeles to Florida. But it would have to be a relay. You would have to be at the relay point. It would not work if you were not at a relay point. So in this feature, they created these junction relay points that allows you to go from place to place. This is a relay, and these are called junction, and junction info will tell you what they are. And here it tells you Ceres Junction, and these are all things that you could acquire from the junction. And then you have this junction, and there are certain icons, and they represent certain icons, and it takes you from location to location. And this junction, and each of these junctions are fastest way to get from location to location. You could basically call it time warping or faster than light traveling. Um, so once you get from there to this junction, then your ship could then travel in space, whatever way you want. So that's basically the natural order of the now generation. We've created junction relays, we've created specters, we've created many technologies compared to that of the past. We've even able to replicate things from the old world. We created a founder which was able to create anything we want. In the past, we had to locate to adapt to huge systems in order to create those things. We could now create our own modding system, and everything we've ever wanted to create in this feature is within one location. So it's kind of like if you want to go to buy something to eat, you don't have to leave your home at all. It can be shipped to you right in your home in that instance. As same as you wanted to work out. If you want to work out, your workout stuff is in your house. If you wanted to travel, you don't even really have to leave your house. Your house travels with you. Your ship is your house, and you could travel with your house. So everything it's kind of like an RV. So this is kind of like an RV. Everything I wanted is here. Now, um, including your personal bodyguards, your sentinels, your specters, and so on and so forth. And of course, your operator, which is in the back here. Now, moving forward with this now feature, in the now feature, you then discovered that operators exist. Before, when you first start the game, you're playing a Warframe, you do not have an operator. But as you're playing the game and you go through the game, you have slight indications through completing certain stories. And those stories basically tell you once you get to a certain point in your main quest, regardless of what that quest is. Say you get from quest here, quest here, quest here, quest here, quest here. Eventually you get to a certain point where it says there's a character called a stalker that's been haunting you throughout the entire game. And he seems to find an individual called Hun Hao. And you need to investigate this. So once you completed all these quests in the story, you then get to a story called Second Dream. And the Second Dream then allows for the investigation of what an operator is. And once you get to that point in the story, and you discover that an operator actually exists, you then learn that a Warframe was never completely its own thing. A Warframe was always adapted, or should I say, was always controlled by an operator. So even though I've told the story of the beginnings of the world, which is how the Earth came to be abandoned, how the future came to be in the space, and how children was trained using the void energy in order to learn transference, and then warframes were created and everything. All that was of the past. When you first play the game, you have no idea of any of these things as you're playing the main story. You only learn of these things as you get to the second dream, and you learn that an operator controlled your warframe. And it's only here that you learn this. And then proceeding forward, you play War Within, which you then are completing your operator story to learn everything of your past and everything of who you are and what warframes are. And by learning this, you then are able to now know what's going on. What's going on in the here generation and what's going on in the past. Because before that, you don't know what's going on in the past. With regards to the new Warframe update, or with regards to all updates, you have no idea what's going on when you first play the game until you get to the second dream. Because the second dream introduced the operator, for which you now learn that you are autonomous. Or it's not autonomous, it's controlled. And then moving through the main story to the main story, you eventually go back to the Hex, which is the 1999 world, for which you then discovered that it's possible that the infestation started in way back in the past. So we wake up in the here and now future, and we're traveling through stories in the here and now future, which is Vor, Fortuna, the infested, and everything in the main story, including the Arcling stories, until we get to a certain point where it's revealed that everything we're suspicious with regards to lore has come true, that all our stuff was everything that we know, everything what we are, everything that you play the game were things from the past. So as you first upload the game, as you first start the game, as you first play as a Warframe, as you first use weapons and stuff, you have no idea what's going on in the game until you get the second dream and you realize everything that you are, everything that existed, were things from the past. You don't know this as you're playing this, because that's not part of the story. The story is not to reveal the past straight away. The story is to reveal the story in procedures. So as you get to the second dream, you then discover what's going on in the past, and then you discover even more what's going on in the past here. And once you've finally discovered everything that's going on in the past, you then know exactly what you have to do in order to secure the future, in order to prevent yet another war, and in order to stop the man in the wall. And then eventually all those stories lead up to the 1999 Hex, which then goes back to discover why the infested happened and why the man in the wall exists. So we've went forward in the future just to go back and to investigate the past to learn of what happened. And that's basically Warframe in a nutshell. Warframe of the nutshell of the past, Warframe in the nutshell of the future. So that's all there is to say with regards to that. And that's me correcting myself with regards to the lore of the Sentients. First Sentient War was against those who got infected by the Void through the Tar system and attacked their masters. Eventually they got defeated by creating the Warframes, and eventually by doing so, they were able to have control of the Sentients again. Or at least the Sentients were able to call a truce. There was a truce of alliance between Orokin and Sentients, for which an academy was formed and peace was developed. But those peace were temporary peace. Eventually we all know where things go moving forward, on how eventually will come into existence, and eventually the new war, or should I say eventually the old war, will come into existence, and the second uprising of the Sentients. Of course with Nata and with Honhao, and with the invasion of the Sentients against the Orokin, for which they learn to, I believe it's not fully describing how they learn to adapt to void energy, or maybe they never did, but they learned to dealt with it, that it doesn't hurt them as much anymore. But yeah, that's basically Warframe in a nutshell. Now, I'm just going to, that was the lore, that's the definition of the Warframe, that's the definition of the lore. The definition of the mechanics of Warframe, I'm just going to do by describing it in here. So the mechanics of Warframe is quite simple. Look sensitivity, aim sensitivity. This one I'll just do by going into mission. And by going into mission, I'll just put it like this. So I define what Warframe is, then I define what the lore is. But if you say Warframe is a looter shooter game with ninjas from space, that's basically it in the nutshell. That's free to play and free to roam. But it's not as simple. It's also an adaptive game, which is it can be used for any person, whether a person has one arm or several arms. I don't know. Whether you're disabled or you have bad eye vision, you have the option in order to change anything within the game, which is your controller, and you could change the controller options. Let's say I pressed on the sprint button and I want the sprint button to be my A button. And the A, B, C, and D are power buttons. This right here represents your powers. So I changed the sprint button to A button, and I'm going to confirm it, and you can change it. And you can change any one. That's part of the mechanics of the game. So my run button, which is this, is now my A button. And my A button, which was my power button, has been switched to my run button, which is this. So the original sprint was the up button, but I now changed it. So I pressed up for the power to be used instead of the sprint. So I'll switch it back. I'm now pressing up again. I'm now running. I'm pressing up again. I'm now just lightly jogging. And of course, when I press the original A, there. So that's basically it. That's the mechanics of switching every single option within your controller to any options you want. So Warframe is very mechanic friendly, not just for the controllers. Anything that on your controller can be changed, or any button on your controller can be changed to anything you want. Let's say your melee attack could be any button that you want it to be, and or to switch to any button or hotkeys. Or let's say under controller you want to remote play and you want to change your vertical axis, your x-axis is there. You want the look sensitivity to be changed. Let's say you want it to go all the way down. So I'm looking with my controller. Not aiming, just looking with the controller. So this is me just looking with the controller. This is how long it's taking me to turn because I lowered the look. Now if I aim, I look with my aim. It turns much faster because the look with the aim is totally different than the look with the game itself. So Warframe has many options for many things in order to change up your playstyle. So you have look sensitivity for the game itself, and then look sensitivity for aiming as well. So I'm going to increase the look sensitivity for the game, and then so now I could move fast by not looking at all through my aiming, just by looking around through the game itself. It'll make you kind of dizzy, so you'll have to lower it. But that's basically the mechanics of the controllers itself in Warframe. There's also the mechanics of everything else. So Warframe is a heavy mechanics game. It's for controller. There's mechanics controller for social, for you to chat with people. There's a chat button for you could chat with anyone, or to turn it off if you don't want private chat. You actually gift things to people. Let's say if you want to gift an item from a store, you could gift it to everyone, or you could just gift it to nobody, or just to friends, or everyone again. So it's nobody, or friends only, and anyone. So if someone is in your clan or in your guild, or you just want to change, give something with a random person, like say you want to trade with a random person, it's best to have it to all. Or if you don't want to trade with anyone whatsoever at all, it's best to have it to nobody. And also receiving a request, like game requests for invitations, you have that as well. So many things are within the social mechanics of the games. So I could go into detail with regards to everything of the game, including the interfaces of the game. What you want to show up. You want your teammates' names to show up. or you want the enemies' names to show up, or you just want no names to show up at all. You want your pet names to show up. You want to mark your pets when you want to know where your pet is, so your pet doesn't get killed in combat. You can mark your pets, or you could prefer an overlay map rather than a standard formatted map. There are many things. You could increase or decrease your HUD scale. Let's say if I increase my HUD scale to 145, the scale of my HUD that you see right here now is 145 on my screen. But if I decrease my HUD scaling, wait, where was I? Notifications. Okay, it was interfaces. All right. So if I decreased it, let's say I'm going to decrease it to say 54. Okay, I've now decreased it to 54, and that's what happens when you decrease it to 54. So the Warframe is not decreased to 54. Your character is not. The environment, the scale of the environment, and everything you're seeing around is just everything that's within your window has been decreased. The numbers are very small in the lower right corner. The map is very small in the upper left corner. In the upper right corner, your numbers with regards to your shields and your health is very small. So you won't be able to see unless you really want it to be that small, so you could see everything within the game itself and not within the HUD itself. Like if your HUD is so big it's blocking your view, you could change it to wherever you want. I typically like to keep my HUD to at least 100. Or 90 something. Let's say I wanted to keep it to 95. I'll keep it to 95. That way I could see it perfectly well, see the numbers perfectly well, and it doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing. Especially the map doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing. I can see the enemies at upper left, upper right, lower, without it interrupting my playstyle. And there's also the options. So what I'm trying to say is the mechanics in Warframe is very user friendly. Like everything you've ever wanted to change up with regards to brightness, contrast, bloom, status effects, depth of field, not depth of field, distortion, glare, film grain, all that stuff is existent within the game. Color corrections, weapon elemental effects, shadows, dynamic shadows, dynamic resolution if you want to crisp resolution, all that stuff, sound effects, sound effect types, voice modulations, also with regards to accessibilities, other utensils and accessibilities are necessary, such as the sprint capabilities, the aiming capabilities, the visual effects intensity. Like if you want the visual effects of the world around you to be more intense. Melee targeting if you want melee targeting on, or if you want to turn it off so you could just target the enemy the way you want rather than the game targeting the enemy as an assistance towards you. All these things are present in the game and they're very vast. They're very good. So you also can increase the sharpness of the game, either to your own monitor, or I believe you could increase the, maybe not the sharpness in the game itself, but you can decrease it to a way so you can see the sharpness in the game. So that's basically Warframe in a nutshell. Warframe with regards to the definition of Warframe, what is Warframe, what it does, and what it's all about. The lore of Warframe, which is what's the story of Warframe, where is it going, what it's also is all about, and of course the mechanics of Warframe. Let's say you don't care about the story, you don't care about the lore, you don't care about what Warframe is, you just want to play a game that has good mechanics, that works for your type of play style, has fun so you could just kill stuff while you eat a meal or something at the same time. It's very mechanic friendly. And let's say you don't care about any of that stuff either, you just want good boss fights. It does have very difficult boss fights, so it carries a palette of many different things from many different forms of many different games that you will want. So that's all I got to say with regards to that. Warframe is mainly five things in total. If you've never played the game before, and if you ask the question, what is Warframe? Warframe is looter shooter. If you want just looter shooter, Warframe is um, fashion. If you want just fashion, Warframe is also controller and user friendly, which is regards to your options and be able to adapt and change anything to the way you want. Warframe is also a story-based game that's split into sections of both past, present, and future. Warframe is also a free roaming game, which is if you don't care about huge robots or if you don't care about looter shooter, if you don't care about fashion, you just want a place where you could just roam and do whatever you want. Let's say you fish or just kill things just because you want to. Like you want to play golf, but your golf is you running around killing things. That's what Warframe is also is. So Warframe is an array of many things, not just one thing. You're not just doing one thing within the game. Like say if you were to play Neverwinter. Neverwinter, you do dungeons, you could fight missions, so on and so forth. But the controllers with regards to Neverwinter is bad and shitty, whereas the controls in Warframe is adapted towards any type of playstyle with regards to its mechanics and options. Plus, let's say Neverwinter has fashion and fashion accessories and so on and so forth. Yes, their fashion is present in their game, just like in Call of Duty. But you can't really change up the fashion to the way you want with regards to armor, with regards to color, with regards to stuff. You buy those stuff from the store, and what the game gives you based on the people who designed them, that's what you get. Just like in certain games, like in World War Z or something like that. Whatever character you buy, it comes with its own pre-made fashion, whereas Warframe has its own fashion that you could design for itself. So Warframe is many things, and it's adapted towards everyone. So I'm going to do this for right now. I'm going to abandon this because I don't really need to do this. I just wanted to make corrections with regards to what I said yesterday with regards to how Warframes came into being. Warframes came into being because of the threat of the sentience, the first sentient uprising, and with the threat of the infested as well. So it wasn't completely just one thing. It was mainly the sentience, but it was also due to the rise of the threat of infestation as well. So they knew the infestation was going to be a threat, and they knew they had to deal with it. So the time period when the sentient uprising, in order to try to destroy the Orokin, set in motion the creation of the Warframe to fight against them, because they couldn't depend on the Corpus or the Grineer to do so. So they had to think of a way to create a new type of weapon in order to defeat the sentience, for which Warframes were created. And once that first war with the sentience was done over, the Tenno Academy and other peace negotiations and peaceful treaties were made with regards to both sentients and with regards to Orokin and those who were loyalists to Orokin, such as the Corpus and everything. But as we know, that all goes to shit later on with the story on how Nathan and all of that during or pre Old War and also during Old War. And yeah, and that's basically it in a nutshell. So did Warframes first fought the infested or first fought the sentients? My guess is that they first fought the sentients first. So that's how I correct what I said from yesterday, because there's no evidence yet that within the lore that stated that when Warframes were created, the first actual combat they had in a war or in a battle was, um, well, in a war was against the infested. Maybe they have had battles before with regards to fighting the infested and keeping them at bay, but the actual first war, there's no evidence yet that the first war was against the infested, or classification and definition of what a war is was with the infested. The first war was with the sentients, for which they were made for. Yes, there was the Separatist War, but that was a war against the Orokin and the Grineer and Corpus, or Orokin and the Grineer. So that was something that was happening during the creation of Warframes. and also after during the creation of Warframes. But Warframes were originally created to deal with sentience first. That was why they were created. Who they fought first is a totally different story than the reason why they were created. So that's how I corrected what I said from yesterday, because I was curious about what I was saying yesterday, and I was certain that Warframes were made for to deal with the sentience. I don't know why I thought they were made to deal with the infested, but I know they were also created to deal with the infested. So they were created to deal with two. They were created to deal with the sentience, and they were created to deal with the infested. But I believe they were originally created by Urkin to deal with the sentience first. That's how they came into being. The original threat was the sentience, and thereafter they used them in order to supply uh, to cool down or cool down the aggression with regards to the infested on certain planets. Um, yeah, it could have been. I could say that it was an infested incursion that was happening during the time period of the sentience uprising, but then that will have to be presented in a future lore, for which I'm not sure yet. But I know for a fact that now I think back on it, I was correct with regards to what I thought from the beginning. Um, I just had to remember it and remember the lore that they were originally born to deal with the first sentient uprising. That's the Warframes, because the Orokin couldn't deal with them because they were too hard to fight against because they use shields and they were able to adapt quickly to enemy weapons, and of course they could replicate when they weren't inside of the void quite vastly, to which it became a threat towards the Orokin that they saw their extinction. So the Warframes had to be created in order to deal with that. So yeah, this had to create that, correct that video from yesterday. So I got rid of that video, and this is the new one. So what I'll do right now, I'll just do a couple of missions, and once that mission is over, I'll do about 30 missions of my dailies, and I'll call it a day. My dailies, and of course, I mean not my dailies, my weeklies, and of course Archon, and then I'll call it a day. I just had to correct my video from yesterday because I know there was something off about what I was saying. I just didn't know what it was, and then I realized when I went back to check my lore with regards to the history of Warframe, I realized that they were originally created to deal with the sentient threat first, even though they were also created to deal with the infested threat, which was happening during the same time, but on certain places.
Fazul's faithful believe they can secure a place in safety.
I forgot to put it back on public. I still have it on solo. So those are the five things. Like, those are the five things. If you're ever curious of what Warframe is, if you ever want to play Warframe, if you got to the end of this video, decide to skip the first couple of minutes or more than an hour of this video. Um, I think it's been more than an hour. If you decide to skip all the way to the end, you ask the question, what is Warframe? Warframe is looter shooter, space ninja adventure, that's free to play and free to roam, and has adaptive mechanics with regards to whatever playstyle you are, and it's full of lore, and it's fashion. So it's five things, primarily five things that are very good. Fashion is very good. Mechanics is very good. Looter shooter is very good. The lore, even though it's cut up into sections, it follows a very good lore of main Warframe quests and side quests. So they're all separated so you don't get lost. And of course, after lore, after uh, looter shooter, after mechanics, and after fashion, there's also things with regards to difficulty rating, such as being in long missions and fighting extremely hard bosses, which you could go to level 100 and stuff, and of course difficult bosses, which you cannot fight by yourself, and if you can, you have to know how the mechanics of the game works, otherwise you'll die many times, straight up Dark Souls type. So the game has a level of difficulty with regards to bosses that if you think that you could just join the game and think you'll be able to beat it and say Warframe is easy. I tell anyone this, but like if you believe Warframe is easy, go fight a boss by yourself. Just one boss by yourself. Not on the solar rail map, not in the solar system, not on this map, but a boss within, let's say, a boss within Railjack, a boss within Deviri, a boss within Railjack, a boss within Deviri, a boss that's located within Deviri, like say fight Weaver by yourself, um, a boss that's part of your weekly, and a boss that's part of Archon, and or a boss that's part of a sortie. Fight a sortie mission and get to the final boss because you have to go for here, here, and here. You have to unlock the first one, second one, and then get to the boss. Solo an entire boss dungeon because that's what it is. You have to go into like a dungeon, eliminate enemies, go back to your ship, then do the next mission, go back into the dungeon, and then rescue someone from that dungeon. Then you go back to your ship, and then go back to the dungeon again. Now, the only reason why I would say it's not entirely like a dungeon because you keep going back into your ship. Now, if all three parts was you staying on that location until you complete the missions, then it will feel like a dungeon. So you're there, you don't have to keep going back on your ship, but it's like a dungeon. So you fight this, and you have an Archon hunt, fight Archon boss, fight Sortie boss, fight a Deviri boss or a solar rail boss. And even if you want to fight, like say, an Argent system or solar system boss, like say, pick one that's not easy. Pick one that's either on Earth with regards to Eidolons, or pick one that's on Venus with regards to um, giant spiders, or pick one on another planet with regards to like the Zarman or a ship like Zarman, like fighting Angel. So even in the normal standard game, which is the solar map, there are still difficult bosses, difficult enough that you'll be killed once, twice, or maybe even three times if you decide to solo it. So I never listen to people who say, well, Warframe is easy. Like, Warframe is not easy. Warframe is only easy with regards to everything attached to the solar map. But once you stay in a mission for a long period of time, doing an endless missions, the difficulty rating with regards to enemies become higher. And if you have to fight a boss at a higher difficulty rating, that boss will obviously be higher than what that boss was when you're not in your first adaptation of that location. Let's say level 30. An example of this is Acolytes or Stalker. If an Acolyte attacks you when you're at, let's say you're an hour in within a mission in the Warframe, a full hour in, been fighting and playing within one long survival mission or an endless defense mission for more than 30 minutes or more than an hour, that Acolyte will be the level for which you're fighting at that hour rate. Or let's say not even an Acolyte, let's say a regular Joe, like a bomber or a heavy gunner. They were going to be significantly stronger than they were an hour ago. So the game becomes far more difficult as you're getting or you're staying longer in missions. So the game is difficult the longer you're staying in the missions. The game is not difficult when you first start to do missions. That's what people are always confused on. They think that, okay, the game is easy because I beat this mission, I beat this mission, beat this mission. There are certain missions that are intended for you to stay longer, to test the waters, to test how strong you are. That's the whole point of Warframe. It's not to create a game that will shit on everyone to make it difficult so nobody could play. Because if that's the truth, then nobody would play it. It's designed for both the people who want a more casual play to those who are willing to stay and see and test how strong they really are versus they just want to play casually. So Warframe is meant for both people who are strong players and want to see how strong they could be, for which it will kill you many times, and those who just want casual and say, oh, Warframe is easy. It's only easy if you're unwilling to test yourself. That's why I don't listen to anyone, because I know they're lying. So that said, I'll just do the mission. I know they're lying because I know for a fact that even certain rewards you cannot get until you beat a difficult boss, or certain items you cannot get until you complete certain things within the game. And you cannot get those things, like say an ephemera or umbra forma. You cannot get those things by just casually defeating random bosses throughout the mission, in a group of people or by yourself. You have to get those things through grind or through fighting a very tough enemy. So I know people are lying when they say Warframe is easy. There are certain rewards you cannot get the easy way. It just won't happen. Unless you're the guy that likes to take money out of your pocket and give to people like Digital Extremes. Only then would I say you can get anything you want. If you pay, you go the whole pay to win route, which is another thing about Warframe, and it's probably the main thing about Warframe. Warframe is sub pay to win. It's like, I know there's some pay to win things inside Warframe, but is so far below the spectrum of pay to win, it cannot really be considered pay to win, especially since you're able to get everything in the game through trading or through farming. It's very difficult to say it's pay to win if the game is willing to give you everything you want by you grinding for it or by you trading for it. By farming a lot of shit prime parts and then trading those prime parts for small amounts of platinums, and eventually all those small amounts of platinums become vast amounts of platinums, and then you're able to get that rare thing that you could not have gotten. So you just have, what basically Warframe is you playing smart. Work smarter, not harder. The hardest part is just to grind for it rather than pay for it. Best part about grinding for it rather than paying for it, you don't have to rush in order to do so. You just accumulate your platinums in a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then spend it in what you want to spend it on without even paying a single dollar.
needed to be done. Azul's delusion.
Here's another thing about Warframe. I could literally grab a cup of drink right now while I'm playing Warframe with one hand and play the game with the other hand. Name a game you could do that. Not many. Because the mechanics with regards to options is so good that you could change it. Easy. All you have to use is use your thumb in order to control the left analog stick, and then use your wrist. Use your wrist off your left or your right hand in order to guide the look button around. So it's quite easy. You could literally have a cup of drink in one hand and drinking it, and as long as your fingers on the L3 button and your wrist, your side wrist is on the R3, you just have to move it slightly to the left and slightly to the right in order to run while you're still drinking. Like you could knock it to the left and right. That's why some people say that they have one functioning arm and they could still play Warframe. It's because it's true. You don't need to use your fingers in order to play Warframe. You really don't need to use your fingers in order to play Warframe. You could even use stomps in order to play Warframe, because Warframe is adapted that way. Like if you were to play like Elden Ring or something, you have to use your fingers, because they didn't make that game in a way that for which its mechanics, its options is good enough in order for you to move around, to dodge, to use your powers. Like look at Dark Souls or From Software mechanics with regards to their options of using their mechanics of characters. You would see it for yourself. It's not that great. It's not that great at all. That's why when people are hyping up like the Souls game, like listen, Souls game is great. Don't get me wrong. Dark Souls games, Elden Ring, those are great, but they have some of the shittiest mechanics. Like Warframe's mechanics is superior to anything from Dark Souls by a mile, by 2 miles. Hey, how you doing, man? I'm just playing the Archon mission. After do a Archon mission, I'm going to do a weekly, and then I'll be done with it. The only reason I'm playing this game today is that I corrected my whole thing from yesterday about sentience with the new update coming in 2026 of Tau. When were Warframes first created? They were first created to deal with the sentience during the first sentient war. The sentient first revolted when they got first introduced to the Void. Then the Warframes decided to were created in order to deal with them because the Uriken was scared that they were going to be exterminated, extinct actually. And then moving forward, we see the Tau Academy was developed thereafter, when a treaty or peace was made between the Sentients and the Uriken. That's how we had the new update with regards to the Tau Academy, because a treaty was made between both Sentients and Uriken, a peaceful treaty. As we know, we all know this, what's going to happen. We already know what's going to happen. That treaty is not going to last for long. Hun Hao is going to be born, and Nata is going to be part of the whole process too. That leads to the old war. So that treaty won't last forever. So the Ta of 2026 coming with regards to the new update, and also December of 2025 with the new Warframe, is going to tell that story. Before the actual old war rebellion of Hun Hao and the Sentients. I couldn't say it really is a rebellion, it's more like an uprise. The second war against the Sentients. Before the Warframes decide to turn on their masters, which is old war. There's a war with the Sentients that came before the Warframe decide to turn against the Uriken. So I had to correct it myself from yesterday. The Warframes weren't originally created to deal with the infested, even though the infested did existed before um, before the first sentient war. They were just, according to the lore, byproducts that were created from experimentation on another planet. And it got out of control, and lots of people got turned into creatures. Then they tried to contain the infested on those planets. And all this was happening during, I believe, the period of the first sentient war, or before it. That's how they came to use the infested DNA and fused it with sentient bodies in order to create warframes. So the threat of the infested was there before. So if someone was to say who was the threat before, in the first threat in Warframe, like the very first threat in Warframe, you could basically say the first threat could be the Orokin, because they were the first slave owners or slave masters. But the first threat against complete genocide of all species, eradication, is the infested. They plan on killing everything. Like, a lot of people are confused with the Warframe lore, but it's quite simple if you think about it on a timeline.
Great ram, and the horns of him were crowned with soul and with Tau. And upon his tongue the Zariman flame, and the mighty demon of the void cowered before him, and he feared it not.
It's very simple to understand. A bunch of scientists experimented on shit that they shouldn't have, and eventually unleash a type of virus that transformed people into crazy monsters. And eventually they try to contain it on certain planets. It's also during this period that they decided to create mining robots in order to mine resources. But those mining robots eventually, once they discovered the void, became corrupted and turned into sentient beings. independent of their masters. It's hard to lock in the exact timeline of who was the first threat and who was the second threat. Because it's not like Warframe has like this specific date of when these people were killing people. So I typically put both infested and sentience happening both at the same time, but at different places. I think that's what Warframe needs, an exact timeline for which what happened first, what happened second, what happened third. So you know exactly when everything happened. Like this happened on this year, and this happened on this year, and this happened on this year. So you're never confused on knowing who was the first conflict or who came first. I mean, we all know that the Warframe, they came into being in order to fight the sentients first. So at least we know that. The timeline of that, we know that.
All messages decrypted. Pazul is not merely insane, Tenno. There is another mind at work within him.
Just admit it, Nata. You're scared to face the possibility that I'm right.
Yeah, all we need is an exact time frame of how things on a timeline with regards to events happen. I mean, we know when the timeline of events happen, but we don't know exactly the time frame of the events. Like the first infested war, the first sentient war, the first separatist war. We don't know these exact things. So if they actually had time for which certain things happen, we would know. Because having time frames of an event is different than having time frames of an exact date. Because an event could be years or decades apart, or centuries apart. Whereas time frames based on date has accurate chronological depiction of when things happens. I'm gonna head off to the Baro Relay in about after this final battle. I'll head to Baro Relay and see what I might be missing.
Who whispered dreams of dominion into Pazul's ear? Who keeps Era suppressed and tormented with delusions? The stench of Naira's venom is upon this, Tenno.
So be it.
You found her. Stay on the move. Those eyes can kill. Pazul has barred the way to us heathens, but stolen deacon veils should allow you to deceive the barrier.
Sleep. Trouble.
Naira devoured her brothers. I will not stand idly aside while she and Pazul devour mine. Be my sword, Tenno. Strike.
Death is just a journey, friend.
You dealt with Archon Naira expertly, Tenno. Her kind may expect no mercy, no redemption.
So that's it for that. I'm gonna go check out Baro and see if anything changed from yesterday or from 2 days ago. Highly doubt it, but he leaves in like 5 days anyway. 5 days and some change. I don't know what got it into me to think that the Warframes were originally created to deal with the infested. Maybe in some back alley lore they were. Maybe they originally were created to deal with the infested. And maybe because of the sentience uprising, which led to the first war, they came to use them against fighting the sentience. But the fact that the Warframes were designed to fuse with sentience in order to have both shields and hard armor of an infested and experimentation, yeah, kind of goes against the whole idea of back alley. I mean, I knew that they were originally created to deal with the sentience first.
My latest collection of choice items from the void is now
Hey, what's up?
available for viewing.
Okay, so let's see if anything changed from I highly doubt anything changed from yesterday. This is the 2025 Tennocon relay. So let's see. Um, have all that. Have all that. There's so much stuff that this guy offers, and you can't buy this stuff in just one sitting, or in 1 week, or even within 1 month, or within several months. This is an accumulation of products he's been selling for years. And each year, when they have a Tennocon event, he's open for shop for every single one of his products. I mean, every single one that he's ever had from his first appearance to now appearance. Okay, so I have all the mods. I don't have these two new things. I remember not buying certain items like Getir, like this. I never bought it because I didn't think it looks good. So there are certain Baro items I never bought because I don't think I needed them or wanted them. Like this, I knew this existed for a while now, but I never bought it because I always thought it was not my style. So there are certain things I've never bought because I don't want it. Like a weapon skin. I never wanted this weapon skin because when I'm in combat, like you think anyone's going to be able to see the designs on your weapon unless they walk up close to the weapon and see it? They might see the color etchings on it, but they won't be able to see the entire design. Some like this they can obviously see because it's clear as day, the design of the skin. Okay, so I have all the weapons, and these are all weapons he offered. And these are the new stuff. I believe this is new. And these are the standards that he offers every, like when he comes once a week, he comes and he offers one of these every time he pops up. Once every 2 weeks actually. He typically offers an affinity when he comes once every 2 weeks, or a credit booster, or a resource booster once every 2 weeks. So there's always one of any one of these. But because this is Tennocon 2025, and he doesn't leave until the next 3 days and 20 hours. I thought it was 5 days, but 3 days and 20 hours. Um, he's offering all of this all in one shot. Mini Katir. I kind of want that, but I only have 22. 100.
Come back soon.
What am I willing to sell for that? I have a lot of ducats, but I do giveaways at the end of the month, so I gotta make sure what I'm giving away is not as important. Kina. To that. I don't think anyone cares. I think everyone in my clan has the Neil Prime and Cronin. Okay, that's 165. Make it to 200. Burston, everyone has that. And Bratton. I believe everyone has Boar as well. So getting rid of those shouldn't be any. Bronco and a Furris. I'm not sure if everyone has that. So, alright. I got 285 ducats added to the ones I have. So 307. Should be able to buy that
See, you're no stranger to the finer things.
that Katir one. Noggle.
Pleasure doing business with you, Tenno. Perhaps you'll come to one of my next parties?
I have too many of these fighter ships. I don't need it. I don't need these guys either. Like, he's literally selling everything. Like everything from his first appearance to now. Like more than, I believe it's 8 years. 8 or 9 years. Because the first year of Warframe he didn't exist. Second year of Warframe he didn't exist. I believe 10 years. He's been around for, if Warframe has been around for 12 years, he might have been around for 10 of those years. Out of those 12 years. Two of those. I don't need this. have this already. There's just certain things you need and certain things you don't need. Like if you're trying to decorate your ship or you're trying to decorate your dojo, most of the stuff is for when Baro gives you these items for decorations. They're typically for your ship. I don't have this. Oh, login music. Whispers in the Wall login music or I think that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I have everything from Tennocon, all the mods, the latest mods, the latest newest mods that came out in 2025 were or the mods that I missed um, were these ones right here, or should I say these are the latest mods: Prime Stabilizer, Prime Counterbalance, and Prime Smite Murmur. So if I had missed them one day, let's say 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, these are the latest ones. I know because I just bought these 2 days ago, Counterbalance and Stabilizer. So I know they have to be new, otherwise I would have purchased them already. Prime Smite Murmur. I know Murmur is definitely new because the Murmur quest goes to Warframe 1999 and before. That's only like 2 years, 2 years ago. 1 year to about 2 years ago. Like Warframe 99 came out last year, and I believe Murmur existed maybe about a year before that. So these are the latest ones, and everything. Yep. So that's pretty much everything from Baro. He's selling like every single goods he's ever had, and that's pretty much it. And we'll do one more weekly, and then I'll call it a day. My intentions today was just to correct what I said with regards to the sentience and the infested. See what's the weekly. Elite Onslaught and I'd rather do an Elite Onslaught. The Incarnates will take a while to do. Alright. Elite Onslaught is all about killing things fast. I don't think Nyx is good for that.
And who needs to meet their makers today, dear? Enter Eleanor Nightingale with attendant demons.
I also heard I saw this woman at Tennocon. Her face. I think the face of Nyx is actually adapted off actual face of the real woman. And it's a real voice as well. The Nyx actually have more of a youthful look than the actual woman does, but the woman's face is uh, more older. Um, yeah, but it's her face. It's clearly her face. The actress, the voice actress face. She was there at Tennocon 2025 for the musical performance one and for the Tennocon announcement of Tal 2026. Okay, so after I do the Mesa one, I'll think I'll call it a day. Yeah, but I have to be able to. The one thing, Mesa Waltz. Yeah, it's a choice I have to make. Nope, very bad. Have to make a decision here. Prime flow or flow. All right. Oh, that's why. Archons. I took the Archons off someone and I put it I took it off her and put it on someone else. I was wondering why her power level was down. I remember removing it. So I had to give her a slight amount of power boost. And since I'm here anyway, casting speed. Throw in casting speed so it do her ability faster. And I do need health regeneration. I mean, she does need armor, but I need health regen for her. I would prefer to use just mad casting speed and then two two amber, well, not two ambers, but two archon shards, like better version archon shards of red. So two of these, and then of course this will be a better version of the Azure. Actually, maybe three reds, one better version of the Azure, and casting speed. But I have to deal with what I have, because I remember I took all the good Archon shards and put it on someone else. And I also mixed certain Archon shards together. Oh, and now I remember what I was supposed to do. Araxia. Araxia, I was supposed to attain two um I was supposed to attain two Argons. That's what I was supposed to do. Shit, I forgot all about it. Alright, so I'll attain the two Argons and then I'll deal with Onslaught. Well, actually, now that I think about it, I don't have much time. Um, I'll just do the two Argons and call it a day. Only need one more Argon and then I'll call it a day. I think Araxia's system only needs one more Argon. I think the system requires 2 Argon. So I got 2 now. So that should be it for the system. I built the chassis and the only thing left is the Neuros to build. Takes me 49 seconds to extract. Okay.
Mission complete.
Or
Excellent
the guy
work,
could jump in and extract together. Oh, I got 4 actually. I think that's thanks to Necros. Necros allow you to get additional resources. Alright, so that's basically it. I spoke with regards to what is Warframe. I spoke with regards to Warframe lore. I spoke with regards to Warframe's mechanics. I spoke with regards to Warframe's fashion and bosses and how the level stuff happens, and of course the new stuff with regards to what's coming out in 2026. So if you don't know anything about Warframe, just watch this video. I speak about everything from Earth being Earth before infestation and before radiation, people leaving the planet and then go off to make a life in the future or galaxy, and of course those companies becoming corpus and then Orokin being born and so on and so forth. Everything from Star Warframe to where we are now. Like especially if you wake up in your Warframe or access system. Yeah, there it is. So chassis is already made. I don't need to make it. The only thing left should be the neuroptics to be made. So if you first wake up in Warframe, you choose a Warframe, you download the game, choose the Warframe you want, choose a weapon. You are in the now generation of this world, the origin system. And you do so by doing missions from the main quest. You start off waking up, then you proceed next quest, next quest, next quest, next quest, next quest, next quest, and next quest, and these are all part of the main quest until you get here. And once you get here, you then realize that everything of your now world was from an old world and an old era that existed thousands of years ago. And it's only through the second dream you learn of this. And moving forward, you then learn even more about that past in the war within. And that's basically it in a nutshell. Everything thereafter is about remembering where you came from and remembering what's going to happen in the future moving forward from there. So that's it. I gotta go. That's it for me going to Baro Relay, me doing various missions, me talking about Warframe, and me correcting myself with regards to how Warframe came to be born. That's basically it. Came to be born to deal with sentience, the main thing, and of course to deal with infested as well. Wasn't just all about sentience, but mainly about them, because they were planning on eradicating the Orokin, and thereafter. But the Orokin always knew that the infested was also a threat that's going to have to be dealt with. The immediate threat was the sentience that threatened the Orokin Empire, which they couldn't deal with. They had to figure out a way. And of course, the continuing threat will always be the ever continuing threat is finding a way to stop the infested for good and end them for good. It's like infested are like a virus, a long-standing virus. They cannot be defeated by normal means. They have to be eradicated and complete. So the war against the infested has been a war that's been going on for centuries. Unlike the war with the sentients or the Warframes against the Orokin and the war with the Corpus against the Grineer, and the new war and the old war and every other war. The war with the infested is just a continuous one because these things are beasts. They're not. You cannot rationalize or have treaties with them. They don't believe in that. They're kind of like the sentients, but more vicious versions of the sentients, unwilling to comply. You have to become Borg. Resistance is futile, or you have to annihilate them. Because that's what the sentients were. You either are sentients, you become Borg, or you get eliminated. But thinking back on it, the infested is the real Borg. Like they are the real hive mind, the real all is one and one is all. Where the sentients, they can come up with treaties and peace. Where the infested doesn't believe in any peace. They are the long-standing threat, the endgame threat, I believe. Like you have to really wipe them out completely, otherwise they will consume everything from anything that's organic, anything that's organic in any form of the way. And obviously, they would be of no threat to the sentients because sentients aren't organic. But we learned and discovered that's not true. Like the sentients have, or should I say, the infested have an awareness of their existence. So if they're aware of their existence, they're aware that sentients aren't really alive, that they're sentient beings, that they're alive to a certain degree, and they're alive with regards to mechanically alive. They're a different type of being than humans are, but they are also aware that they are also alive as well, that they're a different being than humans are and of what sentients are. So that said, they will eliminate the threat of sentience or sentience at all because sentients aren't bioorganic, they are biomechanical. So yeah, the way I see it, it will still be a war if all of the Orokin lost and all of humanity lost. It won't make a difference to the infested. They would still see the sentience as not one of them and a threat. So the long-standing threat is the infested, and of course the sentience. But I believe the true threat is the infested, because in time I believe that if you could make treaties and you could make deals and bargains and or fusions and stuff, or new adaptive life, you could find a way to have peace. However, the infested, I don't believe that their intentions have anything to do with peace. They're just subversion and control. Like if you're not them, then you don't exist. So that's it. That's the end of this video.